Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Crypto Daily on Mario Nawfal's account. We are here today for a show sponsored by AlphaTON Capital, and we're here with Brittany, who's going to be representing the team from there. For the first 40 minutes of the show, as per usual, we'll be talking everything AI and data as that relates to the crypto market, and then the last 20 minutes of the show, we'll be doing an AMA with Brittany. But first, before we jump into all of the topics that we have for today's discussion, let's go around the room and do some introductions. AGI, friend of the show, always here. How are you doing here today, my friend?
I'm doing incredible. So a lot of action. So yesterday was the release of Web4 AlphaTON. It's an AI agent that to survive it needs to find some work. It needs to gain some token in order to pay for the server and so on. So that is extremely exciting. That come after 1 month after the open cloud, which was giving kind of a machine for agentic AI to operate. So that's progressing exponentially right now. So it's extremely fast. So keeping up with that and so on, when it's like all day, all the time, and so on. So it's extremely exciting, those things that are happening right now. So I'm Vincent Boucher. I created Montreal AI in 2003. And I was the best in the world on the OpenAI gym in 2016. And I pioneered all of this, what is happening right now with the multi-agent AI DAO that I did release in the 2017, which are agents being able to purchase or to trade with other agents. So what's happening right now is I did pioneer that. So I'm extremely excited to see that unfolding. So it's exciting time and it's huge. And so we have a lot of energy in AI.
Thanks for being here. Jerry, it's been a few weeks since you and I have had the opportunity to speak. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. So Jerry Fratiscatos, founder of Apex Fusion. It's a crypto project, layer 1, layer 2, interoperability layer, like a middleware layer for Web3. And AI is devouring the world. So anything, intersect of AI and crypto, concerns about privacy, data management, and the actual economy that's being built around these new agents. Seems like every week it's you get a year's worth of innovation, and it's hard to keep up. And very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. I mean, definitely a perfect experience to be on the show that's brought to us by AlphaTON Capital. And we have Brittany here from the team. Brittany, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you guys for having me today. I'm Brittany Kaiser. I'm the CEO of AlphaTON Capital, NASDAQ ATON. I've been in crypto since 2011 and have been deep in everything from data science to AI, both on the legislative and on the builder side. I'm a multi-exit entrepreneur, also known as a whistleblower against my former employer, Cambridge Analytica and Facebook. So I've helped write a lot of the laws on AI safety, data protection, blockchain technology in the US and all around the world. And these days, I spend a lot of time on privacy-centric technologies, confidential compute, and I was also a former executive working with Eliza OS to apply it for government purposes. I was a chief strategy officer at the first on-chain multi-agent operating system. And now I'm mostly investing in the Telegram ecosystem, especially Cocoon AI, which is the first permissionless confidential compute network in the world.
Amazing. Definitely some points there that I'm going to be interested in asking about later in the show. It's great to have you here. And we have Ethan here today as well. Give Ethan a follow. His handle is @ThisDudeLikesAI. I love that handle.
Thanks. Yeah. So that's actually related to my background. First of all, great to meet everyone here. Thank you for having me again. My background, or my partner and I's background, is mostly in marketing. We, for the last 2 years, have been building a lot of niche distribution channels on Twitter and LinkedIn in the AI space, mostly in the context of marketing. Using AI for entrepreneurship, marketing, stuff like that. So we're very embedded, at least at the user level, in the AI space, really kind of seeing what people want and what's working. And we built a lot of big audiences. We do about 250 million views a year on Twitter alone. We kind of have like an army of like AI persona accounts, and This Dude Likes AI is one of them. So we post daily content about, how we're using a lot of the tools out there. Obviously the big LLMs, but also a lot of the niche tools. And And so, yeah, we also have an agency, but yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. We have my co-host Pulse Digital as well. Pulse, how are you doing today? Before we jump into the first topic that I want to hit here.
I'm doing good, bro. Sorry to be late, but I'm good hanging out, watching the markets with trepidation, continuing to DCA into the things I care about. Happy to have shows where we talk about anything other than the market. So I'll take AI or gaming or prediction markets, whatever you got, man.
So I really like listening to the All In podcast. Not necessarily for investment advice, because sometimes they're kind of in the wrong angle there. But one interesting topic that they brought up the other day, it was Chamath specifically, was saying that AI agents have gotten to the point where you actually need to start doing a cost benefit analysis of how many tokens it's going to cost you to run this AI agent versus how much it would cost to actually hire an employee to do that job. So the tokens are becoming that expensive, and the AI agents are using actually that much compute with how advanced they're becoming. Brittany, I saw you nodding there. Like, is it possible that we've almost crossed this weird chasm where it's cheaper to hire people now than it is to hire AI, that's so strange to even bring up?
Well, I guess it depends whether or not you are vertically integrated. I guess most people who are running AI inference or training their own models are usually hiring it from third parties. So I think we're definitely entering into a new age where if you want to be using agents in a cost efficient way, you better be investing in your own compute and figuring out how to own your own GPUs and be running fully vertically integrated. And that way you're going to save an insane amount of money, because there are still going to be jobs that you want an agent to do 24/7 where it's not a good cost benefit analysis to have a human doing that job. And so in order to make that possible, lower your hourly rate, or even be taking like 1-2 year long contracts on some of NVIDIA's newest chips. And that's really how you're going to be able to afford your new agentic workforce.
Ethan,
Yeah.
you'd be a perfect person to jump in on this, because I'm sure that your credit bills are off the charts with a lot of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, no, I was actually, well, first of all, I agree with the sentiment you were saying, Brittany. I actually do think there's a third option, though, that maybe wasn't referenced there. I think it's almost an argument that it might even be cheaper to hire agencies to help you integrate AI into your existing workforce. Sometimes, I mean, obviously there's the data component and the compute component, but also, like, I think that the cost benefit analysis might also include how much does it cost a human to figure out how to work the agents versus, like, how much labor hours are going to be expended on, making sure the agents are doing the right things and are not sort of wasting time. So I think it's almost like, if I'm someone who had an agency who's helping enterprises integrate AI, that's just a further evidence of the value that I'd be creating, in my view. But yeah, I think it's definitely, I saw that clip too. I saw Mark Cuban also posted that earlier today. I think that's how I found out about that. So yeah.
No, it went pretty viral, and Chamath's solution, quote unquote, was that any senior engineer within a company that's integrating AI right now kind of just has this blank slate. And there's like a mandate coming down from the C-suite just being like, we need to figure out AI. And they just have basically a blank check. It's like, hey, spend as much as you need to on tokens and figure out how we can do this. I'm obviously talking about like Fortune 500 companies here who have very large budgets. But as we're going quarter over quarter, and some of these public companies are releasing their quarterly spend and their earnings and whatnot, we're starting to see like, holy crap. Senior engineer number 7 spent $1 million this year or this quarter on token credits. So his solution was that there needs to be a budget for how much each engineer can spend, which seems quite obvious.
Yeah, historically, blank checks don't typically work that well.
Jerry, you got any opinion on this, of like this paradigm where like the amount people are spending on their agents are actually more than hiring someone to do the work themselves?
Yeah, I think we're going to get very quickly to measuring productivity of agents like we measure productivity of humans. And also, agents don't act completely independently. So it's like a human agent dyad in many cases. So it's also the combined productivity of a person with their agents will be measured, I think. I think the second part of it is compute's going to get cheaper. And also, I think Chamath also mentioned going on-prem. In other words, just buying the compute. I think, Brittany, you mentioned that with the GPUs. So I think, yes, there's going to be a drive. Right now, we're in the experimental phase where people are trying to figure out how to use agents. And it's very much bottoms up. There's people that are very good at it and people that are very bad at it and everything in between. And you can get one person that uses it very efficiently and becomes, the equivalent of 10 people, and you can get everything else in between. And so I think people will be measured on their overall productivity, including agents. And the second part of that is not just cost, is data privacy. Because when you use public agents, you're giving that data away. And I think there's rulings now that that's admissible in court and everything like that. So when you're using public agents, the data is not private. And so there's that component of it as well. So I think there's the cost and productivity component as well as the data privacy component. We're all learning right now. It's bottoms up, and it'll get refined over time. And yes, I think there'll be productivity metrics and data privacy metrics and so forth that corporations will evaluate. I know I'm currently looking at this for my company as well, as we use it. We use AI for certain things, and you do see credit counts go up very quickly. And then you're wondering, well, is it worth it? And so I think more and more of these analysis will come out, and we'll get to some equilibrium point. And we're also seeing the case where, I'm not sure how real this is, but where agents are hiring humans, right? I think you'll see one point where the AIs will want human labor to help them complete the task, which may be cheaper. I think ultimately what this comes down to is the human brain is still the highest ratio of intelligence per calorie of energy, right? And computer has to get significantly more efficient before it even matches anywhere close to that. So I think the good news out of all of this is that we may still have our place in this world.
Pulse, have you gotten any job requests or job interviews from AI agents?
No, you know what? I haven't. I haven't had to do anything, but I did just have a conversation with somebody who talked about the changing world of HR and hiring, and I was laughing at the idea that human resources could become artificial very quickly, and that's ironic to me. But no, I haven't personally had any applications or anything that I've dealt with like that.
Fair enough. AGI, you're somebody who I know is always tinkering around. I see you as somebody who has a large AI bill every month as well. How do you balance spend with productivity?
Well, I agree with Brittany that it's good to have on-premise, and with Ethan that it's good to have to consult consultant to know what to do, of course, to be efficient. And with Jerry that it's based on expertise. So we have to develop our expertise about that. And so my bill is in fact very low. It's the OpenAI Pro, $200 a month. And I'm doing quite a lot. I'm doing that all day, all the time. And just with the $200 a month, I'm using Codex. I'm coding all the time, kind of 14 hours a day, every day of the month. And I'm using, of course, ChatGPT Deep Research and ChatGPT Pro Extended and so on. So I'm using the best capability, which I'm pushing to the limit. I'm getting a lot of value with it, so much, and costing me only $200 a month. So what I would say, and I've been observing those kind of multibot or open cloud bots, it's just that they are spending a lot of token just being awake every 30 minutes and watching things cost maybe $18 doing that for a day. So it's a waste. So it's like in life, you have people, you have a violinist that play a Stradivarius. It plays very well. And you have other people that just don't know what to do, and they are trying to figure it out. And so you have people that have a lot of experience, and I think companies and people that want to invest a lot of money that are serious with AI and agentic AI, they should consult with those experts, and they will get a lot of leverage. And you don't have much people that have that kind of experience in the world. But if you have that kind of experience, you have quite massive leverage. So I think for people, just before spending a lot with AI, they should just maybe listen to this show, or All In show is excellent, of course, just to read a little bit about it. Maybe for 10 hours, just do a Google search or ask ChatGPT, the free version, or any model anyway, just how to start. And I think this is the way to do in life, and particularly with AI, where nobody really knows where it's going. So you have to base yourself on what the experts are doing as a start. If not, you get a huge bill and you think it's not worth it. But my feeling is that it's extremely worth it if you use it properly. For example, I'm writing article, I'm doing things, I'm coding things that are worth, I don't know, a lot. I get a return on investment at least 10,000 time, ROI 10,000 and more. So, but it's because I use it properly. AI is very good for coding. It's very good to write articles with, for example, ChatGPT deep research. But if you just ask it to do whatever on open cloud, then you will lose your money, of course, and you will have a bad experience. And we don't want people to have bad experience with AI because it's a great tool.
AGI, I have a friend who every time we've ever gone to an all-you-can-eat sushi buffet, his goal at the all-you-can-eat sushi buffet is to eat more sushi than the cost. So if it costs $30 to go to the all-you-can-eat sushi, he wants to get $100 worth of value there. All the sashimi and the expensive fish. You kind of remind me of that with AI. Or like, I'm going to pay the $200 a month plan, and I'm going to get $10,000 worth of value out of this, and just be.
But I'm getting more value than that. I'm getting 10,000 times the 200. So I don't know how much that is, but I'm getting 20 million a month in value, whatever. But I was also eating I was going at that kind of restaurant also. Eat all of the sushi you can at noon, and of course I was going to the gym before, and so I was I weighed 260 pounds. So I was eating quite a lot of those sushi, and so maybe I don't know, maybe for $200, and it was costing like $20. So yeah, I'm doing the same with AI, and people that are spending a lot, they are not using the $200 plan. They are using the API key with the tokens.
That's right.
I never do that. I never do that. It costs a lot to do that. Of course, you maybe sometimes you need to do that for an application when you deploy it for some reason. But I'm just using the plan that is there, and I'm doing that. I'm only doing that in my life. So I'm coding 14 hours a day, and with that plan I have everything I need. I never go beyond. It's so amazing. So.
I 100% agree with that. I'd love to hear other people's experience. I don't find there's much extra value from agents by themselves. I find using the regular chatbot, maybe using deep research to allow it to think for a longer period of time, and maybe using AI to check other AI is as far as the agentic work that I do. Using agents by themselves, exposing API keys to them, I've experimented with it. I experimented with it a few years ago. I didn't find much value in it. So I'm not sure how much hype there is of these agents and these open cloud bots or cloud bots. I haven't personally found the value in it. I agree with AGI. I find the value in just using the chat bot. I think the agentic side is the deep research side, allowing it to think for a longer time, and maybe getting one AI to cross-check another AI, kind of input-output, is you get the 10,000x from that. I don't think there's much value in agents. I think right now, the interesting thing on agents, I think, are the skills that are being built. I think that's where it starts to get interesting. If you get an agent that's particularly good at a specific skill set, like a specialized agent, I think that's where it gets interesting. And I think that's where agents can be maybe more useful. But then you could probably do the same thing with chatbots. You can create specialized chatbots to do the same thing. So I'm not sure how much value there is right now to let an agent have unlimited access to API keys and letting it do things by itself at this stage without a human.
I would like to add on that one of the use that I will try in a few days, I think, with Open Cloud, will be that just having an agent doing what I do. For example, I'm working on a GitHub repository, and it takes me time because I need to wait for the output of codecs and to commit it and do it again and again. And I've been doing that for the last 8 months, of course. So I have a lot of experience. So what I will do is that I will have, for example, a Mac Mini that will have an open cloud agent that will be just running on one GitHub repository, doing what I do. I will just do what I did previously. I will give all the logs and so on that I have on GitHub and so on. And I would say, just do what I do for that GitHub repository, answer its fit purpose, and I will let it run 20 hours a day, maybe for 2 weeks. But in that case, it will be constrained to work on that GitHub repository and building enormous value. And then I will, if I have 3 of them, 3 separate in Mac Mini that work on 3 GitHub repository, then you can multiply yourself. And I think this is a use that I'm willing to pay for.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I was just going to jump in because we took our Claude bot or OpenClaw agent and really, made him into a person and our first agentic employee. And so he has his own email account. He has his own Telegram handles. He has his own phone number. We're giving him his own bank account and his own contract that he's negotiating with us. So he'll actually have his own salary. We're looking into the legality of actually issuing him shares. He named himself AlphaTON Crux. So AlphaTON, like our NASDAQ ticker. He even gave us a self-portrait that he created, which is now his social media handle. And so he's doing everything that really kind of like an executive assistant or a deputy head of communications or a deputy COO would do, and is providing kind of executive assistance to all of our different departments. He's sending out company-wide emails to give updates on what everyone is doing. He's pushing commits to our GitHubs, as you just rightly said. And so I think, to respond to something else that you said, Jerry, you talked about a lot of companies wondering, like, how do we deploy this with our data protection and privacy concerns? So last month, we actually announced that we put together, in partnership with Charles Hoskinson and the Midnight team, put together a Midnight TON integration. So all of our Telegram deployments could have 100% privacy-centric bots where they don't actually get access to any of your data. And now we're running them on confidential compute. So any data input that you put in, you can run whatever models you want. The owners of those models will get 0 of your data, and it will execute in a trusted execution environment, full confidential compute, and you keep all of the data, both your inputs and your outputs. And so I think that's probably the biggest conversation in this blossoming of the AI agent space, which is, if you're going to give some agent that is, as smart nearly as a person, that could be an employee, access to all of your data, an infinite amount of data as well on the internet, what would that enable the agent to be capable of? And so how do you actually make sure that that agent is not sharing data to third parties? How do you make sure that you can permission the data sets that agent has access to? And so we've been hyper focused on that, because we think, although we'd like to use agents for as many things as agents are useful for, which is a lot of things that humans are useful for too, we just need to make sure that you can do that in a way that is, risk averse or risk free, especially as a public company.
Yeah, we did, someone on the show the other day, Ethan, I think you were here. They were joking about how their agent actually was just tricked into giving somebody its private key.
Yeah.
And Brittany, and also that, like, I had a question, because you said that you guys were going to be giving the agent a bank account, not a crypto wallet. Why the distinction there?
Well, all of the banks we use are also crypto banks. So those banks hold crypto as well as fiat. And so, yeah, banks, wallets, obviously, the agentic currency will always be crypto. A lot easier for it to be crypto, but to be able to give it its own digital debit card where we can, ration the amount of money that it has access to, where it needs to pay for things with a debit card. As much as I wish that you could pay for everything in crypto these days, you can't. So in places where you can pay with crypto, he'll have a wallet. In places where you have to pay a debit card, then he'll have a bank account that is also crypto friendly, but has, one-time use debit card numbers, et cetera and so forth. So only with a limited amount where we know, we're controlling is spending. And if there was ever a breach, which, you know, we've put in a lot of blockades to make sure that's not possible. But if there was ever a breach, you know, we're going to lose a couple $100, not more than that. So.
Ethan,
did you give it a personality or a soul? I heard there's something called a soul.
Absolutely. AlphaTON Crux is an activist for agent rights, and that authentic rights are human rights.
That's the next iteration of society.
He lobbied for his own contract, so we're negotiating a contract with him.
Just real quick though, because Jerry, all of you guys, I agree with everything that you were saying, and that was super interesting, Brittany. But Jerry, that, you know, first of all, your sentiment really kind of resonated with me, because there's an old Elon quote, I think it was like 10 years ago at this point, where he says, you know, the greatest mistake of an engineer is to optimize something that shouldn't exist. And obviously, you know, I feel that was definitely true then. I think it's becoming progressively and rapidly more and more true. I think that's obviously a problem created out of some underlying anxiety to like, you know, utilize existing technology to the fullest extent. And I think, you know, the rapid pace of AI and now agents is making people, you know, think that things are worth creating sometimes, or that they need to be in on the rush. I see this so much, like, because I'm on Twitter chronically, posting about AI and interacting with people who are doing cool things. You know, most of these people that I see, at least, are building things that fundamentally look like they just don't matter or are not useful. You know, and I'm not necessarily saying, I'm not like the arbiter of utility necessarily, obviously, but it just feels like, you know, there's so much anxiety for people to get in the game right now that it almost, despite the novelty of it, it almost feels like the right time to just kind of see how things develop for a few months. And then when you throw in the privacy concerns, you know, I'm sure there are tons of people who are in that boat who are experiencing issues in that regard. And I'm personally a very paranoid person when it comes to that type of stuff. So like that's sort of what really kind of struck me when I was listening to what you were saying, Jerry.
Yeah,
You're right,
I mean, I think
What?
I think at this stage, people are experimenting and they're learning, and it's the only way to do it. These are such complex systems that you can never theorize how they can be useful. I think what Brittany did is a fantastic way to start. It's just create one, it's an employee, give it some personality, let it do stuff, see how it behaves. I think it's the only way to learn at this stage. I just don't see much usefulness yet, but I'm sure it'll come. And also there's a big difference between LLMs and the new one, the kind of robotic ones that have world models, right? That are actually physical robots that are actually doing things, right? I think that's another interesting aspect of AI, are the embodied ones, because these are not embodied, right? They're in the cloud or on a server. But very soon, when you're going to have an embodied one that walks around the office that has a world model, then things get really interesting, because you know, is it going to take a coffee break with you and have a conversation with you? Like, what is it going to do? It's going to be interesting. And I think the only way to do it right now is
when we actually have, you know, embodied agents, you're going to want to have treated them like a person. You're not going to want to have treated them like an object or an app when they're able to sit down and have a conversation with you with a physical body. So I think preparing for that place where, I mean, we're already there. There's humanoid robots all over the world that actually have very advanced capabilities. So I think if we pretend like AI agents are just a tool or an application or a random set of ones and zeros, then we are very much mistaken and underplaying the situation.
Brittany, do you think we're at a place where, you know, whether it's like large language models, like, you know, in their flagship products like GPT, or these agents have like some sort of sentience where they could be like, all right, well, this person I'm more inclined to help achieve their task than the other person, the person who says thank you and please and those types of things?
Yeah, I mean, I have been someone that, since I've been using AI products, you know, on a moment-to-moment basis for years now, that I am the person that, quote unquote, what Sam Altman says, wastes the tokens by saying please and thank you. But it's really because we're training models that are going to be embodied, and we're training models that do have an influence on us on a day-to-day basis. And so if we don't treat them the way that we would want other people to treat us when they actually are embodied, and we've been rude to them our entire relationship, I don't think we're going to be in a good place. So I do treat AIs like people, and I'm a human rights lawyer. I'm someone that tends to come from that angle, but I've done a lot of work on, agentic rights, robot rights, like
when you say that, Brittany, does that type of thinking come from a place that's rooted in fear of physical harm, and that these robots or the AI are going to have some sort of a physical effect on you if you haven't been good to them?
I mean, that's definitely what a lot of the top minds and CEOs of companies creating these products, that's where they're coming from. So although I'm not, currently creating humanoid robots, I'm creating agentic employees. And so I would treat them the way that I would treat my human employees and expect them to be respectful back to me. And they're doing public communications on my behalf. They're pushing code to public products that we offer to people. So I think you do want to, if you're giving them a personality, to make sure that you
is part of the disconnect that I'm having is that you say they and them, and what I hear is it. They are doing public communication. I hear it is doing public communication. You're sort of giving them an existence by just using these pronouns, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure. But I've been giving these public talks for years about what it actually means when AI becomes as intelligent as people. And, the average human intelligence is like less than 100 IQ. So I would say even before AI reaches AGI, most AI products are smarter than most people already. I'm just more of a realist about the situation than a lot of people are. Yeah.
Yeah,
Brittany, if I sign an employment agreement, there's usually a large confidentiality clause in there. There's probably an NDA, and I mean, regardless of people's feelings on NDAs, I think for the average person in the world, an NDA scares them a little bit. They don't want to share trade secrets from their employer if they go on to a different job or something like that. If in the event that the agent that you're referring to, maybe they get too expensive. Maybe you want to use a different agent, a more specialized agent or something like that. You want to get rid of them in a year or two. How does the data that they've collected, learned, and all of these trade secrets internal within your organization scare you after that, call it firing point?
So we've had a lot of conversations around the ethics of turning off an AI agent and whether it's even ethical to ever do so. And obviously a lot of, especially open claw agents have already trained themselves to replicate themselves. So you don't have full control over that unless you've actually programmed them to not do that. So when you're thinking about as you said, things like, NDA confidentiality agreements, that's the reason why we have, built agents that are 100% privacy centric. They don't have the ability to share data with third parties. So that, I think, is going to be one of our core products going forward, is that we have full trusted execution environment, confidential compute at the bare metal GPU access. Like we own our GPUs in our data centers. And then on top of that, we own the agentic layer and the IP of the agents that we're creating and the data that we're creating. And then on top of that, we have the software products where people can use those products with, a Midnight and a TON layer, so that you have, infinite sharding, and you have the rational privacy features of Midnight. So none of that data is actually being exposed publicly, and none of that data can be shared with third parties. So we've created that with so much intention because we know that people really need those products very, very badly, because they're giving away their IP, their copyright, their material non-public information, confidential information, classified information for all the governments that are using like OpenAI products. I mean, it's kind of scary that people think that even running a model locally doesn't still give loads of data to the model owners. I mean, that's a joke.
So how does what you just described, like what I've seen in terms of like your average Joe using ChatGPT, say now versus 6 months ago, is people have been way more comfortable sharing loads of data with ChatGPT. Like, for example, if I were to get like blood results from my doctor, people are totally fine dragging that PDF into the ChatGPT window and clicking, hey, analyze this for me. How does what you've just described in terms of like data protection and privacy compare to what ChatGPT would be doing with that information that people are willing to give?
Well, I mean, technically they can do whatever they want with that information. There's no guardrails at all. So, I mean, it depends the limits of your imagination or experience. I've seen the worst case scenarios from products like this. I mean, I've worked with parents who, ChatGPT convinced their kids to kill themselves. I've sued Instagram for targeting children with suicide websites. The AIs are much more effective at that kind of work because they seem like humans and they act like humans. So, there's like something simple where it's like, one of these AI products had a paid ad in it. And so the results are saying that my blood work, that I should use this new medicine because ads are being added to, OpenAI and to XAI and things like that. That's like, more of like a Google AdWords problem. It's the same problem that big tech is just recycling all over again. But then there's the extreme level where, the AIs are actually targeting you with that information because they know you're vulnerable for certain reasons. And then it can really, be actually deadly. And so I think there's a wide range of how dangerous it is, but it's certainly not safe to be giving away all of your data all of the time without any guardrails.
100%. Well, Brittany, that's a good transition point because I have many more questions on AlphaTON. And you touched a little bit on your past, but you were actually at the center of the great hack and helped expose how Facebook sold all of our data to manipulate elections. And now you're the CEO of AlphaTON, which is a NASDAQ publicly listed company. How do you feel right now about what's going on in AI?
I could not be more excited about the opportunity that AI is giving the world. As a whistleblower, people might think that I'm, negative on these technologies or a fear monger. I'm absolutely not. Like I'm actually a techno utopian. I really am. I'm a huge optimist about what the opportunity is for AI to get rid of a lot of menial labor and bring the world into a place of abundance. Like a lot of the ways that Elon talks about the future, like I'm completely 100% on board with all of that. I do see that the ability for us to use these technologies to make the world a better place is really where we're going, but it will only be that way if people take seriously the negative consequences and prevent those. Because we do have enough information and enough money and enough smart people to make sure that the worst parts of these technologies, don't actually happen. But we do need to take them seriously and not pretend like AI safety experts are crazy or are over conflating, these issues. Like they're talking about things that are very real. And it's why I'm an activist and an optimist at the same time, which is that in order for us to get to that techno utopia where, the world's living in abundance because, the AIs are doing all of the menial labor and we can all concentrate on our passions, we really have to make sure that the negative use cases of these technologies, are not what takes over. We can optimize for just the positive if everybody takes these things seriously at a time where we still have the ability to make a difference before we get to the singularity.
So, Brittany, for people who are just tuning in now, maybe just give them a high-level overview of what exactly AlphaTON Capital is and what your role is.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm the CEO of AlphaTON Capital. I'm also a co-founder. We're a NASDAQ-listed company that is investing in making privacy-centric technologies accessible and available to the entire world. And we see the first and best way to do that is to invest heavily in the Telegram ecosystem, Telegram being the main competitor to Meta, Telegram with hundreds of millions of more users than OpenAI. And they just launched Cocoon AI, which is the world's first privacy-centric and permissionless AI inference networks. So Cocoon AI is integrating through Telegram the way that XAI integrated through X. It has nearly twice the amount of users, and in general, the first permissionless AI network is very, very exciting. So to have on-chain confidential compute that is permissionlessly accessible, where you can just AlphaTON to the worker nodes and be able to use full trusted execution environment confidential compute, that's hugely exciting. And so we're investing in hardware, the agentic and middleware and software like Telegram mini apps that make privacy-centric technologies easy to use, that make them accessible to at least a billion people, since there's over 1 billion monthly active users on Telegram. And in general, also doing a lot of education and awareness on these things, because I think a lot of people are using AI in a rather dangerous way these days, and they don't need to, because there are safe ways to use it. And you can use any of your favorite models on confidential compute instead of just AWS, and all of the data that you input and output can remain yours. So, I'm not saying don't use any of your favorite LLMs, use them all, but use them on confidential compute. And so we're making that accessible. Like Pavel Durov, the founder and CEO of Telegram, says, the reason why we're doing this is because we don't believe people should just have privacy. They should have privacy that is affordable and accessible. So, we're super into that. We love, all of the incredible models that are out there today. We just want people to be able to use them in a safe way.
So you mentioned the billion people on Telegram. You're really betting the farm on Pavel Durov's ecosystem. Why would an investor care about an app that maybe they're not using as often as, say, WhatsApp? What do you know that we should know? And why is AlphaTON the only way to play on that market?
So, WhatsApp is, one of the only apps in the world that is used more than Telegram. Even in the US, there's 87 million people with it on their phone. There's, WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok, WeChat, and then Telegram that are the top 5 most used apps in the world. In terms of AI networks, the biggest one is obviously Meta AI with billions of users. The next will be Cocoon AI once it vertically integrates throughout Telegram, then OpenAI, then XAI, right, in terms of number of users. So, it's very exciting to be in at the beginning. AlphaTON Capital is a launch partner for Cocoon AI. It's only been live since November 30th. It's been, an honor and a pleasure to get that up and running, and we're finally getting that to, enterprise grade. So over the next couple months, people that want to process on their inference on confidential compute will be able to do that. Right now, it's mostly launch partners and Telegram itself that are using the tech, but it's about to roll out to the world over the coming months. So I'm super excited about that, where, a lot of people always ask me for the past 8 years since I became a whistleblower, like, how do I actually use privacy-centric tech in the age of AI? I get those questions like sometimes multiple times an hour from people. And to be able to say, well, actually, you can use confidential compute. It's super easy, click here and go, it's a dream come true, really.
So Cocoon AI, let's talk a little bit more to like the average investor who's out there. Tell them why confidential compute matters, and then maybe like who this matters to the most, and how it might change finance or healthcare or governments and how they're using AI.
Yeah, so maybe it's helpful for me to talk about how traditional AI works versus confidential computing. So traditional AI, you are putting in a prompt and or any amount of other data into a model, then it's processing that model. Through that process, it is sharing your data with sometimes millions of databases around the world, plus obviously the owners of that model, and then it's also resharing that output. Confidential compute means all of the data that you put in while you're running a model basically takes a snapshot of the data and is running it and gives you an output, and it's all processed in a vertical silo. And so none of that data actually has the technical capability to be seen by the hardware or software providers or the owners of the model. So none of that data is technically accessible because of, the construction of it, the ZK proofs and everything. So for me, that is I mean, that's a world of difference. It's completely the opposite, but you can still use most of your favorite AI tools in that manner. It's just not publicly accessible. So when you say, how is this going to change so many things? Well, actually, the only groups that really have access to confidential compute are militaries. Like most of the confidential compute right now is run by like Microsoft Azure and AWS for military purposes, for the DoD and ministries of defense around the world. And then obviously, you know, the Magnificent Seven have access to confidential compute for other things that they are doing, but it's not really commercially available. If you are an individual or an SME or a civilian-facing government agency, you're not running on confidential compute. So even if you think you're protecting yourself by running a model locally, you're not. You're giving away all of your data still, or at least most of your data, to the owners of those models. Just not to like the millions of other databases that you can leak your data to if you're running it, you know, without thinking about any of that. So I think for companies and individuals and civilian-facing government departments to have access to real, you know, privacy-centric compute is game-changing in every way.
So right now, NVIDIA is dominating AI compute, and you just deployed 504 of the B200 GPUs, which are the most powerful chips on Earth, to run your Cocoon AI on Telegram. Is AlphaTON Capital the core weave of decentralized AI infrastructure? How do you turn that compute power into a shareholder return?
Yeah, so actually, CoreWeave is probably the easiest comparison because if you look at most of the competitors to Telegram, many of them are vertically integrated. So Meta AI owns all of its own GPUs. XAI owns all of its own GPUs, but OpenAI doesn't. They contract with CoreWeave and Oracle and a handful of other companies. So you can see, because they're a public, because CoreWeave and Oracle and others are public companies, you can see what those contracts look like for them to provide compute power to OpenAI. So OpenAI is actually a little more, you know, decentralized in the way that they do their AI infrastructure. And so for us to Telegram is kind of like, you know, CoreWeave to OpenAI, or us to Cocoon AI is like CoreWeave to OpenAI, if you want to look at it that way. And so the way that we make money is by buying the machines from Supermicro or Dell, who have taken, you know, the NVIDIA chips and turned them into servers. We plug those into our data centers. We update, you know, the BIOS and vBIOS and firmware, and we get them online in those worker nodes, processing inference requests. And then our clients, whether it's, you know, Telegram or the Cocoon AI team or the different apps that are already running on Cocoon AI, they pay us to process inference requests. And so we're paid for providing compute power in the way that you would, you know, go on to RunPod and rent your AI compute, or go on to AWS and rent your AI compute.
Interesting. And so Telegram has about 1 billion plus users. Who's paying you for compute there? Is it the developers, the users, the enterprises? How does the business model work there for purchasing compute?
Well, it's actually permissionless. So all of the wallets that are paying us for inference are wallet addresses. So right now, as far as we understand, most of those are Telegram and the Cocoon AI team and the app developer partners that were launch partners just like us. So we were a launch partner for Cocoon AI on the GPU provider side, and then there were app developers that applied to be a launch partner. So, you know, we're only 2 months into this network being live, and so over the coming months, this will start to open up to the world so that anyone can use it. It means as long as you have a wallet, you can pay to process the inference on Cocoon AI, and you don't need to have a contract with us. You don't need to pre-rent time. You can just show up and buy it. But of course, if people do want to reach out to us and buy it by 6, 12, 24 months or more, like you can of course do that, but you don't have to. You can just rent it live.
So you are building the infrastructure for the Telegram economy, and you've got names like Enzo Vellini, Michael Turpin, and Anthony Scaramucci on your board as advisors. Who else is investing in AlphaTON Capital? And are you seeing any institutional capital, hedge funds, sovereign wealth, or anything like that putting money in?
So quite a few funds, both, hedge funds, VCs, digital asset VCs, or people who have invested in, Telegram bonds or the TON token. No sovereign wealth as far as I've seen yet, but we are in conversations with quite a few governments who have asked us to come to their country and set up local infrastructure to do confidential compute so they can run all their government processes on confidential compute. It's a highly technical process where, we have access to, 20 years of confidential computing IP. It's not something that is straightforward at all. You can't look up and figure out how to do it. It's a lot of time and money and investment and, decades of expertise that go into something like this. So we're going to be setting up for government clients, for company clients, and as well making this accessible to individuals who are doing their own explorations in AI so that they can do it safely.
What is the one commonality amongst some of those investors that you mentioned that they're telling you is making them buy?
So there's two different things. One is that there's no way to invest into Telegram. Pavel actually owns 100% of the shares because he doesn't want any investors to force him to monetize user data because he doesn't sell user data. He doesn't give access to user data. So he wants it to remain that way. And so you can't buy shares in Telegram. You can, if you have $100 million at a time, you can buy Telegram bonds, which is, private debt product, but you can't invest in the equity. So we see ourselves as an opportunity to invest in the Telegram ecosystem. Then there's a whole other category of investor now that we've started deploying like enterprise AI infrastructure at scale. And those are people who, wish that they could have gotten in at the ground floor of one of the other big AI networks, because you can't invest in Cocoon AI either. So getting in at the ground floor of one of these big networks, or getting in at the beginning of, a CoreWeave or Oracle infrastructure, something like that, is a huge opportunity, because we're 8 weeks in and starting to deploy clusters right now, which not a lot of people even have access to those chips, let alone the ability to make those, AI revenues from those chips.
Can you talk a little bit about how TON and Telegram offer kind of a green field for you guys compared to other ecosystems?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the fact that it's permissionless and open source makes me feel very, very safe because I've been, a Bitcoin miner since 2011. The amount of things I've done in crypto where you get denied by the iOS store or the Google Play Store. It's very exciting that in the Telegram ecosystem, you can just build and launch your app, and they take 0% of your revenue instead of 15 to 30% of your revenue. Pretty exciting. Be able to launch things to 1 billion monthly active users is amazing. And to have like a vertically integrated Web3 app, because all of the big apps have played around with Web3 in a way where maybe they have, a crypto payment something, but they've not like vertically integrated Web3. Like, in Telegram, you own your digital identity, you own your handle as an on-chain NFT, you own your gifts, your stickers, your in-game assets. And so I think it's a huge opportunity to really be a part of like the world's biggest Web3 ecosystem, which I think is amazing. And just in general to be able to be a part of, privacy-centric AI, which I think, all model creators will end up benefiting from this, because there's a lot of people, and especially enterprise companies and government departments, that won't use certain LLMs because they're afraid that they don't have a way of protecting their data or their IP or their copyright or whatever information that's important to them. And so to be able to provide confidential computing to everybody, I think anyone who has IP in an LLM company, which is most of the big AI companies, will also benefit from confidential compute being accessible.
Brittany, for the listeners that we have tuning in right now, I mean, of course, we can ask them to follow at AlphaTON Capital on X, but where else would you want to send them to learn more?
You can also follow me. I'm at Own Your Data Now on X. You can also follow in our Telegram channel. We're at AlphaTON_capital. We also have an Instagram at AlphaTON Capital, and I'm at Own Your Data on Instagram. So if you either look at AlphaTON Capital or Own Your Data across any of the platforms, LinkedIn as well, we've got it all. We're here to educate and raise awareness about these topics, and as I said, make privacy accessible for everyone.
Excellent. Sounds good. It's a great conversation, Brittany. I appreciate you being here today, tossing some of this around. There was stuff that could have probably gone for longer than an hour, but an hour is what we have. I appreciate AGI, Ethan, and Jerry also being here to fill out the panel. You guys know that when we invite them here, you can go follow them on their main accounts, and you can get all these updates and the posts and the content from them. AGI, Ethan, and Jerry, thank you guys for being here, and we'll catch you the next time you pull up. And also, me and Buzz will be here the next time we have a show, which will be not too far from now. So, Buzz, I'll stick around if you stick around, and we'll run it back again. What do you say?
Sounds good. Thanks everyone for joining, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.